The heat in Tallahassee hung heavy that Thursday night. Even as the sun dipped below the pine trees lining Fairview Avenue, the summer air remained thick and oppressive, clinging to every surface and skin. It was 7:43 p.m. when the dispatch crackled over the radio inside Engine 7. The report was brief: gas smell, possible underground leak, residential zone. Immediate response required. Rachel Monroe didn't hesitate. She never did. 10 years in the department had made the rhythm of an emergency as natural to her as breathing. She snapped her helmet strap beneath her chin, tugged on her gloves, and exchanged a quick look with her captain, Dana Fields, as the engine rumbled out of the bay. Residential neighborhood. Dana muttered, eyes on the road. Let's hope it's nothing. Rachel nodded but said nothing. She was already shifting into mental triage mode. Gas leaks could be tricky, invisible, volatile, and deadly in the right conditions. But the protocol was clear: evacuate, isolate, ventilate. As they neared Fairview Avenue, the scent of gas hit them like a wave, sickly sweet and unmistakable. Neighbors stood on porches, some already on their phones, others stepping back nervously. One man was waving them down. "It's strong over here," he called out. We heard this weird hissing sound from that old crawl space. House number 118. Rachel was already unbuckling. "Copy that," she said into her radio. "Fields, I'll check it out. You coordinate evacuation." Dana hesitated just a beat. Rachel was one of her most trusted firefighters. Resilient, sharp, but even the best needed a backup in a gas call. "Take Ramirez with you," Dana instructed. "Keep radio contact tight." Understood. Inside 118, Fairview Avenue, the air was stagnant, the kind that sits heavy in older homes built without central circulation. Rachel moved methodically, LED flashlights sweeping across yellowing wallpaper and outdated furniture as she scanned for signs of gas accumulation. Her partner, Manny Ramirez, followed a few steps behind with the gas detector out front, its clicking growing more frequent as they neared the basement door. "The readings are climbing," Manny said, frowning at the monitor. "Concentrations here are dangerous." Rachel opened the basement door slowly. The hissing sound was unmistakable now, steady like an open valve. "We need ventilation," she said into her radio, "and a full perimeter secured. This house needs to be clear within 2 blocks if this thing goes." Dana's voice came back. "Already on it. Utility companies en route. We've got Tallahassee PD redirecting traffic." Rachel took a careful step down the stairs. Let's see where this is coming from. She never got the chance. The explosion tore through the neighborhood like thunder, cracking windows 2 blocks away and sending a fireball of heat and debris into the humid evening air. The roof of 118, Fairview Avenue, buckled in an instant. Flames licked out from under the siding, consuming the porch in seconds. Dana Fields had been mid-sentence on the radio when the blast hit. The concussion threw her to the pavement. She scrambled upright, already yelling into her mic, "Status check. Monroe, Ramirez, come in." No answer. She grabbed the first hose team she could find and ran toward the structure, where neighbors were now screaming, dogs barking, someone sobbing. The smell of burning insulation, wood, and gas hung in the air. And then, through the haze, she saw Ramirez, bloodied and dazed, crawling out through a shattered window, smoke pouring around him. "Monroe, Rachel, she's still inside," he gasped. Dana didn't wait. Helmet secured, mask down, she charged into the wreckage. The interior of the house was unrecognizable. What had once been a cramped, outdated living room was now a scorched ruin of timber and drywall. Smoke churned through the collapsed hallway like a living thing, stinging the eyes and lungs. Dana pressed forward, low and fast, calling Rachel's name through her mask. She found her near the foot of the basement stairs, partially pinned beneath a splintered ceiling beam. Her gear was scorched, her breathing shallow, but she was alive. "Rachel, stay with me," Dana shouted as she worked to free her. Rachel's eyes fluttered open. "Gas line, sparked basement," she rasped. "I know. You're going to be okay. Just hold on." With help from the backup team, Dana managed to pull Rachel free. She was rushed outside where medics were already waiting, an oxygen mask lowered onto her face, compression starting almost immediately. But even as they worked, Dana saw the look exchanged between the paramedics. Grim, measured, within minutes. They were loading Rachel into the ambulance, lights already flashing. Dana watched the doors slam shut, then stared after the vehicle until the taillights disappeared. Tallahassee General Hospital was a blur of lights, alarms, and antiseptic scent. Emily Monroe, Rachel's wife, was called at 8:10 p.m. She arrived at 8:21, their son Jeremy in her arms, pajamas still on, barefoot from being carried into the car. The chaplain was waiting. Emily knew before he spoke. Rachel was pronounced dead at 8:19 p.m. Blunt force trauma and internal injuries. Too severe, too fast. Emily held her son tightly, murmuring words he didn't yet understand. She wasn't sure she understood them either. She saved lives tonight, the doctor said gently. You should know that. A lot of people are going home because of her. Emily nodded, eyes vacant. But she's not. By sunrise, the flag outside Station 7 flew at half-staff. Inside the station, there was no usual chatter over coffee, no casual banter about the night's call volume. The squad room was eerily quiet. Boots sat by lockers untouched, radios muted except for emergency-only channels. Even the youngest rookie understood the gravity of the day. Captain Dana Field stood at the center of it all, hands clasped behind her back, face unreadable. She had barely slept. There hadn't been time. Her last glimpse of Rachel had been in the ambulance, then a call from the hospital half an hour later. Ramirez was stable, recovering from a concussion and minor burns at the hospital. Dana had already visited him briefly before dawn, squeezing his shoulder, exchanging few words. Guilt hung over both of them like a fog. She was the best of us, he whispered. Dana only nodded. We'll make sure they remember that. Emily Monroe sat at the kitchen table, a half-empty cup of coffee cooling beside her. She hadn't touched it. The blinds were drawn against the harsh Florida sun, but even in the dimness, the house felt too exposed, too quiet. Jeremy sat on the living room rug, turning a red toy fire truck over in his hands. He didn't understand. Not really. He had cried in the car when she told him they couldn't visit Mommy at work anymore. He had asked if Mommy would be home in time to read his dinosaur book. Emily didn't know how to answer him. When the doorbell rang just after 10 a.m., she thought it might be a neighbor. But it was Dana, still in uniform, standing with the careful solemnity of someone carrying news and grief in equal weight. Emily opened the door slowly. Dana didn't speak at first. She just stepped forward and embraced her. I'm so sorry, she said quietly. Emily held on longer than she intended. She loved you all, she whispered. You were her second family. She was part of the heart of this department. No one will forget what she did. They sat for a while. Dana gave her the official debrief. The preliminary findings, a sequence of events. She reassured her that the investigation was ongoing and that Rachel's name would be honored properly, both in Tallahassee and beyond. Before leaving, Dana placed something gently on the kitchen table. Rachel's badge, black-banded. Emily stared at it for a long time after she left. By Monday morning, the state fire marshal's office had released its first findings. The leak had originated from a corroded coupling in the gas line, an old connection installed in the 1980s, weakened over time by soil acidity and moisture. A small rupture had released gas that accumulated in the confined basement space of 118 Fairview. All it needed was a spark. They couldn't say definitively what caused the ignition, but investigators theorized it might have been from static discharge or a faulty electrical outlet. Rachel had been closest to the epicenter. Tallahassee PD ruled out foul play. We're looking at a tragic convergence of circumstances, the fire marshal said at the press conference. Weather, aging infrastructure, and timing. Journalists asked about accountability, whether the utility company might bear responsibility, or if the city had failed to maintain records. Officials deflected pending legal reviews. The focus, they said, should be on honoring Rachel Monroe's sacrifice. Dana, seated beside Chief Lila Grant, remained composed throughout the briefing, but her hands were clenched tightly in her lap the entire time. The funeral was held 5 days later. The entire department turned out, joined by units from across the state. Firefighters in full dress uniform lined the steps of St. Mark's Cathedral as the honor guard carried Rachel's casket inside, the Florida state flag draped carefully over its length. Jeremy clung to Emily's hand, his small suit pressed and unfamiliar, his eyes big and wide, kept searching the faces around him as if looking for someone familiar, hoping maybe this was just another work event where Mommy would wave from the front. The eulogy was delivered by Chief Grant. She was the kind of firefighter every department hopes to have. Brave, but not reckless. Compassionate, but unwavering in crisis. She had a habit of humming old songs while inspecting her gear, just loud enough to keep the rookies calm. You could always find her with a mug of black coffee before dawn, and if there was ever a need for a volunteer, she was already moving before the sentence was finished. Dana followed her, voice raw with emotion but steady. I watched Rachel run into places the rest of us hesitated, not because she was fearless, but because she was prepared. She did her job with courage. She did it with heart. And that's how we'll remember her. When the ceremony moved outside, the engine stood gleaming in the sun, chrome polished, flags rippling. Bagpipes played Amazing Grace. As the casket was lowered, a final call rang out over the city's radio. Station 7 to Firefighter Monroe. Final call. No response. Firefighter Rachel Monroe has completed her last call. End of watch, June 26. And then silence. The grief didn't end with the ceremony. It never does. At Station 7, Rachel's gear remained in her locker, untouched. Someone placed a single red rose in her helmet. The wall beside the engine bay bore her photo now, framed beneath the words, "In Valor there is hope." Dana returned to work, but something in her movements had changed, more deliberate, slower. Ramirez was due back in 2 weeks. Others checked on him regularly, some bringing meals to his family. Emily began receiving letters from other fire wives, from strangers, from the governor's office. One envelope came from a third-grade class in South Florida who had watched the news and wanted to say thank you. One drawing showed a firefighter with angel wings, helping people out of a burning house. Jeremy taped it to the fridge. 2 weeks after the funeral, Dana sat alone in the station's conference room, her laptop open but untouched. Papers were spread in front of her, incident reports, post-mortem evaluations, preliminary recommendations. But she wasn't reading. She held an envelope instead, addressed in neat handwriting. The return address, Emily Monroe. Inside was a letter. Dana, I've been meaning to write this for days, but I didn't know what to say. Maybe I still don't. But I wanted you to know how much your visit meant to me, how much you meant to Rachel. You saw her as she really was, strong, steady, brilliant in ways she didn't always let on. I saw that in her every day. So did Jeremy. Asterisk, she once told me that she trusted you with her life. I know she meant that. Thank you for trying to save her. Asterisk, please don't carry this weight alone. With love, Emily. Dana reread it, then again, slower. The words settled into her like soft rain after a storm, no less painful, but somehow easy to bear. She folded it carefully and slid it into her coat pocket. Then she closed her laptop and rose. There was still work to do. In late July, the City Council convened to vote on a new resolution, the renaming of Fire Station 7 in Rachel Monroe's honor. The proposal passed unanimously. 2 months later, the new signage was installed. Rachel Monroe Memorial Station 7. That afternoon, firefighters, community members, and city officials gathered for the dedication. Emily and Jeremy were there too, standing in the front row. Jeremy wore a red shirt that said, "My mommy is a hero." The mayor stepped forward to speak. Firefighter Monroe's name will live on not just on this building, but in every life saved by those who serve here. Her sacrifice reminds us of what true courage looks like. After the ceremony, Emily walked Jeremy through the station. He looked at the engines with wide eyes, touching each one like it might still carry his mother's warmth. At the back of the bay, a mural was being completed. Rachel, painted in full turnout gear, kneeling with her helmet at her side, light catching the corners of her face. Behind her, the skyline of Tallahassee rose against the sunrise. At her feet, A child holding her hand. The artist, one of the department's own, had painted it from a photograph Emily had provided, altered just slightly. She never stopped protecting people. Dana said softly, standing beside Emily. Even now, she's still with us. Emily nodded, brushing a hand down Jeremy's back. She always will be. It was a quiet night when Dana finally returned to Fairview Avenue. The house where the explosion occurred had been condemned, fenced off with warning signs. The street smelled like wet grass and earth. Crickets chirped in the distance. She stepped from the truck and stood still for a moment, letting the silence wrap around her. She wasn't here for an inspection or a report. She was here for herself. Dana closed her eyes, remembering Rachel's voice in the dark basement. Steady, calm. We got this? A breeze stirred the air, and she believed it. Hooked on true crime? Hit subscribe and stay tuned to Deadly Affairs.